Welcome to the Business Life of Husband and Wife podcast,
a show based on real experiences in business and life.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are episode 28 of the Business Life of Husband and Wife podcast. And so as you guys all know who listen, and for those who don't, we have three kind of formats of our show. And those three formats are we interview couples in business and kind of get their story and their life and how things have gone for them and how they communicate and go about their processes. Then we bring on expert guests, which we have today in Matt Holmes. And they give us all kind of insight on individualized topics for business. So we kind of specialize in certain things. So we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have marketing experts, we have leadership training professionals come on. So we do that, all that kind of stuff. And then Robin and I also have our Q&A subjects. And because we started this podcast in February, we only were going to do 48 episodes and we wanted to do 52 and make it a full season. So we have 4 bonus Q&A episodes that you'll be able to submit questions through the Business Life of Husband and Wife website, which is businesslifeofhusbandandwife.ca. Top right corner, you can submit questions and we will answer those on episodes 13, 26, 39, and 52. So anyways, without further ado, how's it going, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I appreciate you bringing me on and, let me be a guest to, your podcast and inviting me into your world and, your guys' life and your audience. So, I know that's a big deal and a big thing. So I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on. You got a full set of skills that a lot of people don't have when it comes to understanding advertising online, right? So I think it's going to be a really huge value for especially people listening and watching now, since we're doing a lot of more YouTube as we're learning.
Yeah. And that's my big thing. I'll start off by saying I've been really bad at promoting myself and marketing myself, which is funny. I really got caught this year with just some business and mistakes that happened where I wasn't doing what I preached, where it's like, hey, my big thing for people all this time was like, let me work in your business. You don't have to. You can work, promote your business, do all those other things, where I wasn't really doing it to myself. Like my website is still great, but it's completely outdated. It says we only do Facebook, not Facebook and Google and all these other things, and wasn't building my audience. So that's really what I'm focused on now, is trying to expand and add more value and not just stay in this little bubble that I've been behind the scenes with certain clients and working with high ticket, high tier, like really specific clientele. I'm like, man, there's all these other businesses that I can really share and give value to, and I don't have to just stick in this one area. Like I was doing a disservice to myself and to so many other businesses of like, hey, maybe I do know a couple things that I can share and give value to. Even like my wife's I've got an office right here. My wife's got a brick and mortar business in the front, and I help and do some things here and there, but I'm like, that's her thing. I try not to overstep, where I'm like, man, I could really be helping her and other brick and mortar businesses here in our town too. And I'm like, I haven't done that. So I've done a really bad job of that. And I guess kind of getting kicked in the groin per se for my business, the past quarter is like really opened my eyes to be like, what are you doing and why are you doubting yourself? Which we all go through. I still have the whole imposter syndrome. I doubt myself. I'm like, even yesterday I saw some other market. I'm like, man, are they better than me? Like, are they like, stop comparing myself. Like, stop. I know what I know. Let me stick with that. Let me just try and give more value out there. So, that's why I'm here. And my goal for all of this is, to give as much value to you guys and your audience. So
awesome. Well, that being said, can you introduce your company and essentially what services that you do offer?
Yeah, because I won't introduce it well. There's too many vowels and things in there. Like, oh man, I see. I'm like, here I go.
Yeah, no problem. I'll introduce that. So first and foremost, like I say, Matt Holmes. I've been doing online stuff and in-person, like all kinds of stuff for business, like most entrepreneurs for a lot of years. Husband, father of 7 kids, we're a blended family. So that's like my main job that teaches me, and more failures and successes than anything else is that. And then, I've got my marketing agency, which, that going out and doing that phase and that chapter of my life started about 4 years ago. Like I said, did other stuff, had a warehouse gym and was a strength and conditioning coach and trained athletes and moms and all kinds of people for years. And then that's where I got introduced to the whole online marketing world. Did a lot of that, and I always liked the internet thing. So I'm like, if I could work from a laptop and learn a skill set, I could be anywhere. And so I did contracting, did the military, did contracts for a while, and started to get back into that while I was overseas in my off time, and then lived in Europe for about 6 months until I met my now wife. She brought me back to the States after almost a year and a half. I finally came back, and then worked with a mentor of mine doing all kinds of stuff. And that's really what kind of segued into paid traffic. I was learning operations. We built a membership site, and I was doing Zoom recordings before Zoom was this crazy thing, through COVID. I'm like, yeah, I've been on Zoom for like 8 years now. Like, okay, it's no big deal now to me. And doing all of that. And then I started learning more of the marketing, do copywriting and understanding the numbers, like all this kinds of stuff behind the scenes that goes on with a business, not just here's ads, because that's like one piece of it, 18 other pieces and all kinds of stuff that goes along with a business. And then started learning Facebook ads and how to do all of that. And that really came to the thing of like, he gave me my blessing and plugged me a few of his clients or, people that he was helping with marketing and stuff. And was like, hey, Matt can do your ads. And I was off to the races since then. And it's been, go ever since.
When did you start like the company?
Gosh, it was like, I think January, technically, where I filed with the state and was, official. I think it was like January of 2018 or February of 2018, something like that.
4 years.
About 4 years or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that transition for you then from like being under a mentor and then opening up your own, like that whole, because that's like another entity in itself, right?
Yeah, it was definitely scary. But it was kind of like I got no other choice. It was like I was, making nowhere near of where like my business ended up leading me to. And it was like, all right, I've got to figure this out. I've got to get some clients. And it was like, they say, narrow down a niche. Like I took anybody and almost everybody on, and I charged, very little because I was like, here's where I am. Let me get started. And it was just a kind of don't look back kind of a thing. I had like 1 month left of getting a paycheck essentially, and then it was like no more. And so that's why I say like April of like 2018 was kind of my official, because that was the last time anybody paid me outside of my own business. And then it was just kind of nonstop since, just networking, doing all this stuff, and just go ever since. And thankfully, I still have some of my very first clients that are still with me, which is cool, because agencies and stuff like that, people come and go. Like that's just kind of normal part of any business for the most part. So that's kind of a cool thing with it. And then just learned a lot with it, gone a lot of different markets, started with Facebook, and it's still my bread and butter with a lot of stuff, but it's like one piece. And through this process, we've expanded to learning and doing more implementation with Google search, and YouTube's been a big thing for us going on this year now, and obviously TikTok's a new thing, and to get that going with myself and then get some clients going, or like my wife's business. So there's a whole lot with it, so I look at it as like people like, hey, well, what do you do? Like I don't just do Facebook ads. Like I help small businesses get more leads and customers. Like that's the easiest way I can explain it. And then through that, well, marketing strategy, paid traffic, like then that's where the skill sets are. But I like to, one thing clients like with me working with them is the background I have. I didn't just start an agency to be like, oh, Facebook ads, and I can make money and teach people to do Facebook ads. Like I know all these other things that are part of the business and are implementing it with mine and my wife's, and I'm very involved with a lot of our clients to where our piece is the paid traffic. How can we utilize that? But let's look at overall strategy. What are things you can do? Hey, here's this. It has nothing to do with a Facebook ad, but this is what data tells us. What about, this? What are your pages? Like there's so many pieces that go into it outside of just the ad itself. And that's kind of really where I like to step in and help. Just my honed skills are running the ads, building the ads, copywriting, creatives, all that stuff.
Very
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to get from you for sure, and hopefully generate you guys some leads too as well.
Yeah.
So what's the name of the company? We never got to that because
gosh, I totally went over that. So it's I didn't want to put it as like Holmes Media or this or that, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I was like, that's not me. Like I want something cool and exciting. So I did it as HMFIC Marketing, which I don't know, can I swear on here? Is that cool?
Yeah, for sure. Works.
Okay, so it stands for head motherfucker in charge. So I'm sure a lot of people that came from like military back, like that's kind of like, who's the HMFIC around here, which usually like the first sergeant or something like that. And
That's awesome.
so it kind of came from that of like, well, what's something cool? And I was like, HMFIC Marketing, like perfect. So some people get it, some don't, or like, oh, okay, they never ask, or when they do ask, like even at the bank, I had one of the tellers one day, he's like, what's that stand for? When I opened the account, and I was like, oh, head motherfucker in charge. And he was like, oh, well, I guess I asked for that one.
But it makes sense because it's tied to like your background, right? So I just want to ask you a little bit, how like you did tours and you were like in the military.
So I spent a little bit over a year in Iraq and then in Kuwait. Nothing too exciting. It was a time where I probably let some outside influences and things like that kind of derail me. And I was older compared to a lot when I went in, but I think I was mature but very young of trying to figure out who I was and having some good positive influences. Like I kind of had some, but I still didn't have shit from my past, daddy issues or whatever you want to call it, and things like that I was still working through. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those, like, I'd say it's the only regret that I didn't pursue and do more. Like a lot of my friends I went in with ended up being, Army Rangers or Green Berets, and they're still out there doing all kinds of cool stuff. And I'm like, God, I was on that path, and then I kind of fell off of it and, just let negative things influence me and whatnot, and kind of fell off. And I'm like, so I wish I would have done more. And I, but hey, I'm doing what I'm doing now to serve other people. I've got a great family, so I wouldn't be where I am now, and it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my background with that. And I don't talk about it, I guess, as much because I'm like, there's nothing cool compared to like other people like that I know that I met, like Dakota Meyer. He's a Medal of Honor winner. Like, who the hell am I compared to this guy? Or my other friends that, didn't come back or have been out there and got blown up or are still actively out there and stuff. So I'm like, it's a blip for me compared to these other guys and the people that are still out there. But that's kind of where some of that background and stuff, and whether I had that or not, I'm total, like, love America, the flag, non-political things aside, I'm like, very, as you can see, obviously, with the flag and stuff in the background, like that's a big part of me and just kind of who I am. And I've very much put that within the business. It's like, here's who I am. Some people like me, some people don't, whatever, like here's my family. Okay. It's all built. Yeah, it's all my business is all built around my life and being able to spend the time with the family and have that freedom, but being able to help other businesses. And here's my skill set. But that's kind of my number one things. And it's very much like who you see now and who you work with is the exact same person. It's not two different people. If I got up on stage to speak to people, it'd be the exact same guy I am now compared to any other time of the day. So
do you think that like doing that training like really like helped your mindset though, and like getting to a point where you're like you can help other people? Because like I went and did my firefighting training in Laredo, Texas, down in Teeks, and it's paramilitary, so it's similar but not even close to what you guys go through. But like as a kid, it was huge. Like this was 14 years ago now when I went, and just that whole, and it was only 4 months, but you develop so much more respect and that mentality of like, okay, like you can get through a lot more tough times than what you think you can.
I definitely think so. And it's still like, it's one of those things that's always going to stick with me no matter what. And that's where I'm like, gosh, I wish I could have done more and experienced more of that stuff that you only get to there. Like, I'm crazy and thinking of like, God, I wish I could have gone to like SEER school, which for people that don't know, like it's the survival, evasion, resist and escape. Like it's their kind of POW. Like if you get captured, they teach you how to survive and how to escape and how to like resist interrogation, those things. And everybody, and they've got different levels, but a lot of my friends that have gone through it that are in special operations, they're like, it's one of the, they never want to do it again, but it was one of the best experiences ever. There's nowhere in the world you can do that besides there, and like the schools and the things and just experiences and friends that you've had that I still have that I met overseas that if I saw today and haven't seen, in years or something, it's like you saw each other yesterday. And just the views, like it's expanded my mind in a lot of ways that it never would have. And I still learn to this day and take that in, whether it's in business or just my personal life or being a parent now. And I think I juggle with, like, I like countries where they make everybody do it for the most part, like it's mandatory. And I don't think everybody's right for it. So it's kind of like a balance where I think a lot of people should do it, even if it's like a 2-year thing, like a lot of Israelis, a lot of them do 2-year mandatory service. They go in and like, hey, whatever, it's part of their duty to the country. And I think a lot of people could get just powerful life lessons from that stuff. But I do agree there are some people that just, it would almost be it would drag other people down and kind of like they just shouldn't be in it, should go somewhere else, that just people aren't good for it. But I think a lot of people would be good to go in, whether they end up being a lifer or they end up going in for 2 years and then they get out. Like that would be fine. I think there's something special and unique about it because such a small percentage of our country actually does it. Like we're one of the only militaries that are 100% volunteer. Yes, we've done drafts, things like that, but outside of it, we're one of very few that are 100% volunteer of service, and a very small percentage say like, hey, yeah, I want to do it. And no matter what job they do, and they're like, hey, I will, you sign up to my life. Like that's the blank check you sign. And it's an experience unlike any other out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of value to what you guys do, and what actually, like my brother-in-law has done 2 tours in Afghanistan. So we kind of have that connection, that family connection, that they go do it. And so it's the mindset of building yourself up. And then when you take that into a business, so how have you implemented some of those things into your business, and like how you deal with your clients and kind of get them to zone in on how they can advertise their brand? Because basically what you built is you built your brand based on your values, right? So how do you kind of start that transition with your clients and kind of get them on that mindset and that path?
I guess that's a good question, and probably a lot of it, like I don't consciously, where some businesses I know, like they're very much built around that, like it's ingrained in, like here's our values, like it's very much transferred over into it. And maybe that's where I could have some improvements and some things that I should maybe carry in, and a lot of it's probably just subconsciously, but I don't put it into, like, let's say everybody knows Jocko and Echelon Front, like their stuff is built around their lessons that they did and the teams, and carried it over into leadership excellence into small businesses, leaderships, and corporations, and like that's their thing. Where with me, it's probably just little pieces here and there, and I think that's where I still grow, and I'm like, oh, this actually connects to this lesson that I learned here, carrying through. And I think one of the biggest things just for me in business and in life is, that you can lose a battle, but it doesn't mean you've lost the war. And that's something I've gone through recently of, this past quarter, like I said, made a lot of mistakes with my team and other things that just weren't right and going against my gut and stuff. And it, lost a lot of money and had to let go team members and all this stuff, where it's like, it had nothing to do with skills. It was just mistakes made. I'm like, oh, okay, well, lost that battle, but the war's not over. So what do I do? How do I adjust? How do I recover from it? And then now how do I push forward to the next objective? Like, okay, now what's the next thing? Let me get back up now let me keep pushing forward. And I think a lot of that comes from that too, is like, you know, you're never out until you're actually out and done and give up. And that was one thing that I learned with it, is like, never quit. Well, you're never going to fail. Like, you only fail once you quit. So it's like, oh man, that sucks. And I feel bad, like, oh, am I a failure? Am I doing the right thing? Like, am I a fraud? You know, am I actually helping clients, or am I not? Like, should I do something different? It's like, oh no, okay, like, just because I made a mistake, I learn. How do I adjust? And I'd say probably one of the biggest things I've learned with clients is like AARs, which are after action reports. And that's a lot of what I'll do with clients. Like, okay, well, let's take a look. What was successful? What wasn't successful? You look at everything with a campaign, with ads and all this stuff, and say, okay, well, let's do our AAR. Now, what did we learn? Okay, now what can we take that into? And you can just say, like, the next campaign, or whatever's a mission, or whatever it might be, like, take that into what you're doing next, and you continue to improve on those things. So I would say, now thinking about it and talking with you guys, that's probably one of the biggest pieces I've taken from it, is learning from those things, keeping what's important, learning from the mistakes. So it's not like, oh, I wasted all this money on like this new campaign and these new ads and new offer. It's like, no, you invested that into it. You learned what worked and what didn't. Now you take that forward into the next thing that you're doing. And that's been a probably big part of all of this, you know, with what I'm doing. And like I said, in just life in general, being a parent, I probably take more of it into that than I do business.
Which is fair. I mean, you have 7 mows to look after, 8 actually, right? So
9 including him.
Yeah, well, 9, but you don't really ever include yourself in those numbers usually.
No.
So if somebody, like, I think we've all kind of gone through a little bit. I don't know if it's just been like everybody, like we had the same thing. We've gone through like a little bit of a blip in the last like month, 3-6 weeks, where we've just been getting kind of hammered, and we know we can be better, and we know where we need to work on things, because we sit back and we had to analyze what we were doing wrong again too. So when somebody's in that mode and they're ready to, okay, we need to start doing some advertisements, we need to start getting some foot traffic in the door, we need to start whatever it might be, from a small business perspective, like, that's a big deal, right? Getting those numbers and getting those leads. How do you get people, and how do you set their kind of budgets into the ads, and how they're kind of, like,
starting point.
Give us kind of a starting point, I guess, in a roundabout question on that.
I guess it's really relative to what's going on, because there could honestly be times where I might sit with somebody and they're like, hey, here's where I'm struggling. Here's where I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, let me do some ads. And honestly, I'd say sometimes it's like, you don't even need to be doing ads. Like, why are you even thinking about ads? And there's times where it's businesses are new, and it's like, don't even do it. Like, don't hire an agency. And it's funny, I'm taking more of an anti-agency approach now and doing more coaching and consulting for people, because there's just a time and a place for certain things. And I would say with that, there's times where it's like, you don't need to be doing ads. There's organic stuff. There's, you know, past customers. There's other things you can be doing. And I'm even doing a lot of that now with myself. It's like, well, I don't need to be doing ads. Like, here's other stuff I could be doing that is giving value and bringing new clients, new customers, or people that have been looking at you and are technically kind of like, you know, they're lukewarm, you know, you're nurturing them and giving opportunities to let them become a customer for you. So it's really going to be kind of relative in terms of what's happening and what's going on. So I'd say there's a portion where like ads and stuff are not the solution. And a lot of times, like, people think like, oh, I'm going to run ads and it's going to solve all my problems. Like, it's a piece and it's a strategy. And like we said in the beginning, a much bigger picture. So sometimes it fits and it's good, and sometimes it's like, no, ads aren't going to fix your issue. It's only going to be like, if you got a bucket and it's got holes in it, and you're going to send traffic and you're going to pay for ads and you're going to send traffic to a bucket with holes in it, you're just pouring more water in it without actually fixing the holes or coming up with a plan and a way to start fixing those holes and testing and tweaking and optimizing stuff. And then putting, you know, more water into your bucket, sending more traffic, finding more of a cold audience. Because if you've got problems and you're not fixing them and you're sending a cold audience to that, it's not solving the problem that was there. if you find out and you fix, okay, here's what we can do, and I need to send people, okay, great. Well, should we do paid traffic? Is there organic like reach and stuff that you can be doing there that's going to help you? And then focusing on that. But if we do look at like a budget side, budget's one of those things where people are like, well, how much should I spend? And it's like, well, there's multiple questions that I ask there, because is it a low ticket? Is it a high ticket? Like, have you tested this before? Is it proven? Like, what data do you have? What do you not? So like, if there's something new, you got to look at it that way. Like, well, how much can I invest into buying data? You've got new ads. You've got a brand new offer. Like, you have no idea what ads are working, the creative, the copy, the audiences, how your page is going to convert, what it's going to cost you to get that lead and then convert that lead into a customer. So you've got to get all that data, because it's really a numbers game at that point. Like, there are things that come into it, psychology and targeting and all this different stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the end of it is like, hey, what's the data saying? It's a numbers game. If X equals Y and that works for you, okay, well, how much does it cost us to get 100 new customers? And be able to scale that and looking at the numbers. Like, that's really all it is, which is funny because I sucked at math and I hated math growing up. But I understand this because it applies to me. Like, stuff in school is like, man, like, I'm not a rocket scientist. This makes no sense to me. Like, but this stuff does. And like, that's really what it's going to break down to. And then from there, you figure out the budget. If you have some of that data and you know, okay, well, here's what I know works. Here's our conversion rate. Here's this. Okay, great. How many customers do we want? Well, based on it, and it's not exact, there's stuff, fluctuations, just like the market, things go up and down, and good days, bad days, and algorithms are a living organism, like they kind of change and move. But if everything stays the same, we know here's where we need to be to go from A to Z and have this many customers. Well, okay, expect to pay this much if here's your average cost per lead and this and this and this. If everything stays the same, and we've had that with clients where they're like, I want 20,000 new leads and I want to spend X amount of dollars. I'm like, all right, that sounds cool, but let's come back to reality. Let's break down the costs. Like, what do you expect in the end to get for that? Okay. And you want to spend Y, let's just do the math. Well, here's where it needs to be. Like, that's not possible. Like, that has never happened to you. It's never happened to us. Like, you're asking for an impossible thing to happen. So you got to kind of work through those things and just be realistic too. It's good to have goals and have ambition, but you got to be realistic at the same time. Like, if a client's like, I want $2 leads. Well, have you ever had that? No, we've only been able to get 5. Like, well, what do you expect me to magically do? If you've had other companies, like, there's only so much realistically we can do. It's not, people joke, and I've got a sticker on my computer and a shirt that says, I'm a Facebook marketer, not a fucking magician. And it comes into a lot of that, and it's true. Like, it's not magic, it's a system and anybody can learn it, but there is experience and things of understanding how to figure out budgets, what you're okay with investing into things. If you're like, hey, if I lose this and I don't make it back right away, just like investing into a stock, if I don't get this back, am I okay and can I still put food on my table? That's the way you need to look at it.
Okay. So then when you're starting with people and you're looking for that data, how do you recommend that people track that? If they're essentially coming to you for the first time, how would you like to see that data, or how do you capture that data?
So if it's something new, we help and we sit there and we look at, like, here's the things we need to look at from the ads dashboards themselves. Like, hey, how much are we paying for like a CPM, which is cost per 1,000 impressions? And then, okay, how much we pay, what are our clicks? What are our click-through rates coming through for our ads? What's that costing us? Okay, like a lot of it are vanity metrics. And then you look at, okay, we've had so many, just simple numbers. We had 100 people click the ad to the landing page and 50 of them opted in. Great, that's a 50% conversion rate. Like, that's the stuff we need to know. And then, okay, out of those leads, let's say it's a call funnel. So, we'll call that as a lead. So you had 50 calls or 50 leads that came in, and let's say 25 of those actually booked a call. Okay, that's again, if you look at it, out of 100 clicks, 25% booked a call, 50 actually became a lead, and then 25, so 50% booked a call after they became a lead. And then you look at, okay, how many showed up, and then how many did you book? Like, those are the numbers you need to look at. So let's say you had 10 people at the end of it. Well, okay, well, we've got a 10% clicks to customer ratio, like, which is insanely good for people to think of that.
Like, down very easily for people.
Yeah, it's super simple to look at that. So if you know, like, okay, well, how much a customer's worth, how much did it cost us to acquire a customer? Are you positive? Are you break even? Or are you in the red? Like, really simple to look at it there. And a lot of people overcomplicate this to make them sound fancier and like, you can't do this without me. Like, anybody can learn it, really. Anybody can. You just, sometimes you need the guidance from other people. Like, this is what you need to look at. Like, oh, okay, that saves me time. Like you were talking about before. You can figure some of this tech stuff out. Just might take you 4 times longer.
Yeah.
And that's not an efficient use of dollars most of the time.
No. And it's the same thing. It's like I didn't know any of this. I learned it through trial and error. And then I've had coaches and mentors. And I still have coaches and mentors throughout all of this, because some of it you just have to do. And why I think a lot of people don't need agencies. Like, you need to learn this because it's your business and you want to get it to grow. I don't want someone to screw you over, because there are shitty agencies out there. There's bad people out there. You need to know, so you know what you're looking at, because it's your business at the end of the day, not mine, not somebody else's. Like, it's yours. So you need to understand and have at least a base knowledge to then be like, okay, you can talk. And then when somebody does take it over eventually in-house, or you hire it out, you know what they're talking about. It works for them. Like, it's a much better mutual relationship that way. But anybody can learn it. But having some guidance along the way, which is why I'm doing more coaching consulting versus just agency stuff, is there's so many businesses that can do it themselves, and you're saving money to put into your ads, and you're growing it, you're learning more, you're building your skill set for your business, because you need to understand marketing, whether you end up doing ads yourself or whatever, understanding it, because it's going to help you grow in the long run. But yeah, that's kind of breaking it down with the numbers there. It's just, it's simple stuff to track.
Yeah, that's perfect. If you're looking for professional help, look no further than RAM Accounting and Consulting. Key Instincts is an online HR consultant firm that can help you with all of your human resource essentials. We're back with Matt Holmes, and we are going to, there's the wave. He's like,
ready
we're back
to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So let's start with Facebook, because that's kind of your bread and butter, like you said. So let's start there and kind of figure out with people, like, let's just go small business for now versus anything bigger. Let's start there and just kind of talk through the steps that they need to kind of implement some sort of like leads and ROI, and how they should go about that with you, and like what you would recommend they do starting out. So let's just say like under $500,000 business, somewhere in there for revenue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and even then, like, most, I would consider most, as we know, like, small businesses are majority of the businesses around, anyways, outside of the big corporate type ones. So, but yeah, I like how you narrowed that down, because a lot, I would say, 500,000 or under. A lot of people are out there doing, low, even lower 6 figures than that. So before we kind of jump into some of that, the part that I'm going to say now is going to really say that if they haven't done this and kind of set things up, it's going to help them in the long run. And it's getting like the foundation of all of your business stuff set up right within it. And Facebook's put out a lot of really cool updates lately too that they're pushing out. So they've got what they call like and I say Facebook, but I know everything's meta now. They're changing it to meta everything. But I just know it's Facebook. So Facebook's business manager, as they call it, the meta, business manager. Think of that as like your corporate headquarters for running your business through Facebook, and get that set up from the start. So it's like business.facebook.com/create. And some people might have it, some don't. If you don't, go set that up, because it's going to really save you a lot of headaches in the long run, and it's set that way. Like if you're doing business, that's how they want you to be doing business on there, is the way they set it up. So if you ever have issues or you have somebody that's experienced and comes in, like they know how to boop, 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 push buttons, tweak things around and make it work for you. And Facebook can help you because you set it up the way that they want it, and it's going to save you time and energy in the long run. So go there, set that up. If you have your Facebook page already, and a lot of people set it up through their personal profile and they manage it that way, it's super simple, easy steps to import that, create your ad accounts. And the big reason with it is, let's say you have employees as you grow and they have different roles and responsibilities. You have somebody that just does like admin and financing stuff. Like you can sign them to a finance role and they can take care of all that. You've got somebody that, answers comments and DMs or multiple people through your Instagram and your Facebook page. All that's integrated within your business manager. You can look at all of them. You can add notes. Like it's think of it like a customer, like a CRM, where you can add notes, tags, you can assign roles and responsibilities, and keep people really constrained within your business of what they have access to and what they don't. And then you can add admins that are like, hey, I just want to have the access, but you manage all of it. Like we do a lot of that for our clients. They bring us in, like, just give me admin access. Like, we're not going to screw things up. It's going to save you. And like, I'll set everything up and do all this stuff for you. And it makes it easy. So that's one thing I would say is get your systems, everything set up that way. So you're not trying to share Instagram logins and do all these things that used to be the old way of doing it, where they've improved the system a lot, I would say, this year that they've been working on, and it's made everybody's lives way, way easier for that, for, posting content and scheduling stuff. Like they're doing a lot of that in-house now. So I would set it up that way. Register your business. When you set up your business manager, you can go through and you actually submit, like, it's a tax form or bills, like, here's my, like, it's a registered, verified business. And that's going to help you down the road too, that Facebook's like, hey, this person's real. It's not like they didn't do this in their mom's basement and they're trying to scam people, because it happens a lot. People get annoyed, and I do too, with security features and things like that. Facebook makes mistakes just like we do, but a lot of it's there because people set up accounts and they turn and burn. They try and spend all this money and they get all this, they scam people, and then they ditch out on the bill on Facebook. And so they got free ads essentially, and they made a bunch of money, and then boom, they turn and burn it. So a lot of it, it's there to protect you, the users, and the platform. Because if they get a lot of that, people aren't going to use the platform, and it's going to suck for everybody else. So keeping that in mind. So that's the first thing I would say before like any of that stuff. Now, if we start talking about leads, gosh, there's so much. Like I try not to get, so if I kind of start to get like in the weeds of stuff, I try not to, because you can easily do that with it. But there's kind of two forms and two ways you can go about, well, there's main two ways. You can do some other stuff with like Messenger, like send a messenger and things like that. But the two main ways for like conversion campaigns, because there's multiple campaigns you can run, are going to be your conversion ones and like your lead forms. So there's pros and cons to both. We've had businesses and stuff where we help them get up in a lead form. So like, let's say you're a brick and mortar business or a small business, and you can, let's just keep it easy. You're like an in-town, like face-to-face, you're a real estate agent, or you're plumbing, or you're brick and mortar, you're a massage therapist, anything like that, and you just want to get leads and calls in. You don't have to set up this whole like lead capture type website. You can have your basic, say your Wix website, whatever you've got there, and that's done. And you're like, well, I don't want to deal with the pixels and how to set this up. Like, let's just keep it super simple, and then we'll kind of go forward from there. You can do a lead form, and it's all within Facebook. So if you've ever seen an ad, you click it and it opens up, and it kind of tells, like, you don't leave the Facebook app, and it opens up, gives a picture, kind of description, some ad copy, and then it asks for like name, phone number, whatever it is. You click submit and done. Yeah. Super easy. That's an in-app like feature that they've built called lead forms. So there's pros and cons with it. The downfall, quality is lower. It's improved a bit from when it first came out, but I just had a consulting client they ran them side by side, and it wasn't as good. Like, they contact people and they're like, I didn't fill this out. Like, they forget they even fill the stuff out. Like, that's how, because it's so simple versus clicking an ad, going to a web page, seeing more stuff, putting in your phone, like phone number, putting in your email, and you kind of go through like a typical funnel lead process. Costs more, but it takes more intent because there's more button clicking and more pages. Like, it takes more time. So if people are going to go through that, they're showing a bit more intent with it. So there's pros and cons. There's the easy way, but knowing that quality is a bit less, costs are lower, so you're going to get more, but volume versus quantity, you can kind of argue both. And we've done it, especially with gyms and boot camps, where like they wanted volume. They're like, I know it's a numbers game. I know we're not going to get as great a quality, but they were like, let's do it. Let's get volume. And it was super simple and easy to set up, and they were fine with that. So again, you got to kind of judge and balance that. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, I say we do something very similar to that. So we have I forget what the term is on Facebook, but through the business suite. So what we'll do is I have it's like 5 rotating ads. They kind of just rotate, right? And those ads just go click on the website. And on our website, our lead generation are forms. So if you want to order a product, each one has their form, and we need all those details before you get a number from us. So when you filled out that form, they've actually gone through that process and they've actually kind of worked through it. We usually close most of those because they've had to go through so much. And I mean, a lot of people don't like to do that, but it saves us so much time on the other end.
Yeah, it's saving you time. And like, everybody always goes, well, can you get me the cheapest cost per lead? It's like, I can probably get you pretty good comparable with like fair market like costs that are going on, and I could probably beat. Sometimes I beat people, sometimes I don't, but it's about the quality. It's like, okay, well, I can get you really cheap leads, but I can't promise you that you're going to get an ROI at the end. Like I said, this other consulting client, we just went through some of it today. They're like, yeah, we wanted to test it. I told them, they knew. They're like, cool, let's test it. The actual conversions that went to a website, they had to go through the process. It cost almost, it was like, I can't remember, but it's like, let's say $150 to like $250. So those are pretty, like, percentage wise, that's a pretty big percentage gap of an increase, but it made them money where the other one, for their kind of sales cycle they had, they didn't break even. They were actually in the red for doing the lead form. So there's a pro and a con with that. And like you said, if it's, I go the other route for the most part. It's an easy way to get up and get started while you're setting up the other stuff too. So you can kind of battle like, well, wait, don't do that, do this other way. And that's more of the way that we do it for 99% of everybody, because it works. It works better. It's more, it costs more, but the ROI and the value's there for the intent. And that's where you have to think of too, which we can kind of go off on a side note for like Facebook and Google. Like, they both serve their purpose. And let's even say YouTube ads. Certain things and certain offers like are great for YouTube and they're not, so it works for certain things, and then Facebook kills it for some people and YouTube doesn't do as well, or vice versa, or they both do pretty well. So there are like what you're offering, what your product is and your service. But the big thing to look at it, even if we take out YouTube and you're looking at like Google search and Facebook, so they both work. We like both. You should be on both, at least if we take YouTube out of the picture, and there's certain things to set up between the two. You have to look at the intent and where they come from. So the way I like to describe it, and why I fell in love almost more with Google lately, and they balance each other out, is Google's more of like an intent based, and Facebook's going to be more of your interruption marketing. So the algorithm's really good at targeting people. It's not just, it will find people that aren't the right fit. They both do. Like, it's algorithm, it makes mistakes and it learns through the process. But it's really good still at targeting the right people. If you give a good parameter, say, here's kind of the ideal person I want within this bubble, they will go find them. But again, people aren't searching for what you're offering for on Facebook. They're looking at their friends' feeds and this and that and reels. They're scrolling around. And up pops your digital billboard while they're cruising the internet and like, hey, look over here, and that's where your copy and your hook and your creative captures their attention, and they're like, oh shit, this is what I wanted, and they click through and they go to it. Google, on the other hand, they're like, I'm searching for XYZ. Like, pretty intent based. Like, they're looking for it and you pop up in front of them, hey, here's what you're looking for. Very different of how you're being introduced to them. So keeping that in mind, and that goes in with the intent of a quick lead form that they fill out versus, oh, hey, you capture their attention, you pulled them in, they click through your website, they fill out this form, or let's say it's a call application, they fill out, this, okay, you have poor quality coming through on your calls. Why are you pre-qualifying people? No. Well, put another step in there. Yeah, it's more of a pain in the ass. You're going to get less people, but you're saving your time because you're not getting on phone calls and dealing with people that aren't qualified or really aren't serious. So they answer pre-qualified questions. You know a little bit more about them. So it helps your sales team. It helps you learn more with them, and it disqualifies people. Let's say we've had clients that do $20,000 masterminds through call funnels. Well, hey, where's your business at? How much are you making? Like, oh, I'm making about $1,000 a month right now off my business. It's not going to be a good fit for them, but you can kind of offshoot them into maybe a lower tier, something that's going to help to get them there, like a group offer. Those are the kinds of things where you have to understand the intent and going through those process, where if you just did the lead form, you're going to get a lot of people, but you're going to get a lot of no-shows. You're going to get people like, I never filled this out. Who are you? And they get pissed at you. Like, it happens. I hear from clients, so like, they didn't even know, and they were pissed at me for contacting them. Like, I never filled this out. Well, somebody did with your name and number and your email. Like, I don't know, but that's kind of where to look at. But, leads are huge. Like, email's not dead. It's one form to still build. You own that asset versus if Facebook goes away and all your shit's on Facebook and your Instagram, what happens with your business? It's gone overnight. And a lot of people saw that when Instagram broke recently and it was down. They were like, holy cow, like my business disappeared, and it scared them because they're like, wow, if it goes away, got this stupid fly. So it's been bugging me going all over the place. If that platform goes down overnight, or they change a policy and all of a sudden you can't advertise something, and boom, your ad account gets banned, because they don't have to give you any warning. Like, they can do whatever they want because it's their platform and you're playing in their sandbox, and you got to follow their rules, and they can change it at any time, and you got to deal with it. So how do you play with their rules, but how do you build your own assets? And that's where building your email list, getting people to your website. Like, I've got stuff within Facebook groups, and it works, and it's great because it's easy to get it going, but not hosting it in there and having that, because if all of a sudden that's gone and they kick your group out because they don't like you, or your account gets banned and they kick you off Facebook, what are you going to do? So you got to be prepared for some of those things. So leads, I think, are huge, and why that's like, if you go to my website, it's like automated lead generation. Like, that's what we focused on for that. That's one of the big main reasons, is that's an asset you own, your email list, your SMS list, like all these things that you can do that you grow and nurture people. And with that is, they've done studies and they've shown is a very small percentage, let's say between like 2 to 5% of people are even going to buy from you right away within like that first interaction, or let's call it 30 days. Half the people are never going to buy from you or anybody else, but then out of the remainder will buy from you or a competitor within 30 days to 24 months. And like, that's a big percentage. If you think like, so many people are focused on like the quick conversion. Yes, that's part of it, and you need that. But majority of people, and that's the majority of revenue when you look at potential customers and revenue per customer, are going to buy 30 days to 24 months. So you have to continue to nurture. So that's where an email list and podcasts and, seeing you on Instagram and on TikTok, and like having what we call like nurture sequence, omnipresence type ads that are just giving value and calls to actions that are continuing to get in front of people. So when they are ready, or they know somebody that's looking for what you've got to offer, you're top of mind, and then you're going to be the one they buy from, not your competitor or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So being on top of mind goes right to Google now, because when I think of Google, like you don't go past the first page, right? So when you're looking, when you're placing your ads to get you on the first page, how do you go about doing that? Because that's for us, like if someone types in, hey, we want, you know, reclaimed barn doors, or we want barn doors, or we want ceiling beams, that's, you know, we come up pretty much first in Calgary and in southern Alberta, pretty much in the area. So how do people go about getting that and setting their ad in the right spot and
creating their profile?
So a lot of people will look at like, oh, SEO, you know, which it's like, it's a huge, one of the buzzwords. It's been around, and we know it has its purpose, but it's not like I can't go and make some changes. Like I don't do SEO, like don't ask me about it. I don't really know. I'm not the expert when it comes to SEO, where I could go in and let's say I do some SEO stuff.
Oh, shit.
You're frozen, Matt. Oh.
There we go. Did it stop for you?
Our internet connection is slightly unstable, it's saying.
Apparently we're having Wi-Fi issues too, but yeah, keep going.
We had that. Okay, cool. Where did it cut me off or freeze at?
Let's just start. We'll cut at that question, like how to get Google. Just start.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay, cool. So like I was starting to say with the SEO stuff is, it's like I'm not the expert. I don't know a ton of stuff with SEO. Like if you want SEO, I can send you to somebody. But the big thing with it is, like, again, it's a piece of something, but it's not instantaneous. Like I can put up an ad and then it goes live, it gets reviewed and it goes live in Google. You type it in and I'm going to show up. Where SEO, like that takes time. It's not an instant thing. So that's something for people to think with, like, oh, SEO, especially those sell SEO services. I'm going to get you on first page of Google. I'm like, there's some questionable stuff with that. So be cautious of promises that anybody makes. But it's not going to be an instant result that you're going to see. But with the Google ads, you can say, okay, I want, and we've got data with all our tracking, and that's a huge thing that we can kind of talk about, attribution and understanding, because again, the numbers are important. Where we've got a Facebook ad, somebody clicks the Facebook ad, and literally, like, we can see the timestamps of then they go to Google and they're typing in your brand name, like product, person, whatever the brand is, and then they click on what we call our branded search campaigns, and then they go and they become a customer. Because people aren't like clicking ads right away. Some are. They click the ad and then they buy, or they see it. They might check it out. They click the ad and they're like, oh, okay. Well, I want to go see if this person's legit, you know. So they go and type it in on Google. Like the market's becoming smarter and they're wanting to understand more, because there are scams and there's bad people. So they're smart. They're spending their hard-earned money. So you have to understand that they're spending their hard-earned money on you. Whether, again, it's a physical product, it's a digital service, like anything like that digital product, like you have to understand that. And they go, and so that's important to have. So even just doing branded search stuff, and I did a free like training recently that I posted on my social, where it's like, I'm going to show you how to do this. And you can do it to target competitors, cross-market competitors to show up. Like, so if you have the same target person as not a direct competitor, so they're not selling the same service, but they would buy from you too, like you can target them with your stuff. So doing that within Google, that will pop you up right away. The caveat with that is, if it is you are doing something that you're targeting big brands and there's a lot of search traffic and other people targeting those keywords. Like, let's say I've got a shoe company, I want to target somebody that's like, where to buy Nikes? Like, it's going to cost a lot, because a lot of people are doing that. So again, it's a bidding system. The more people that are targeting that word and are trying to make off of that, the more you're going to have to pay, because you're trying to get that spot and you're bidding for that impression against somebody else. So that's something, like, that's how all of it's built. So if people don't understand, like, it's a bidding war of what you're doing. If you do your branded search, and we've had clients like, no, you type it in and nobody's using it, it's like pennies. Like, it's super cheap, like pennies and pennies a day to spend to do that. The higher the volume, the more popular a brand is, the more people search it, the more it's going to kind of cost you. Or we've had clients that they do stuff, but they have affiliates. So they have affiliates typing in their brand or their product, and we're doing all this ads and marketing, but then the affiliates are getting the Google traffic and taking it. So we started to do that for them. So that's one way. It's like immediately you could pop up. So if you have, like you said, the barn doors, like you want to target reclaimed wood and you want to pop up at the top in your area, you could go to Google right now and type it, and you'll see what's going to pop up. Do it a few times, do it in an incognito browser, like you can see what pops up, and nothing might pop up in your local area, and great, it's going to cost you even less. So you go and you create those campaigns, or if you do have some competitors, you can do it, and you just might have to spend a little bit more, and you got to kind of judge, like, well, how much should I spend, not spend? Sometimes they're going to win in the bidding system, sometimes you might win. If you want to win every time, there's a way to win every time. It just costs you to win every time, or you want to target them. Like I've got a new client that, found me through some of my reels and stuff that I've been putting out, and he buys houses for cash and flips them and, does a few things and flips them. Like that's his thing. And he's like, well, one of the first things we're doing for him is targeting the other big companies in the area that do the same thing he does, because they do tons of ads. I'm like, well, we're going to target their customers, and people are searching for them on Google, and we're going to send them to you instead and create some different ads to capture a percentage of that traffic, because they're doing all the front end work. We just do a little bit of the back end, and you kind of steal the traffic in a way. Like that's the name of the game. Everybody does it, plus doing your branded search, or if people are just like, how to sell my house for cash, and where, that local area. Well, we can do that. We can look at how many people are typing in these searches. Same thing with YouTube. So that's how you can start popping up right away on that first page. Like, because you see when you go, it's like, here's the ads or the top sponsored stuff. And then it's like the organic things that pull up. You can be there right at the top, and you can make it big where you see some where it's like, here's the ad. And then you see about us and this and this. There's site link extension. So it's really big. It takes up like a third of the page, and that's going to stand out. So you can add some different site links. If you got free resources, like a instant free quote or this or that, like you can put all those in, and that's a pretty big ad. It's literally the top of Google, and it doesn't cost a lot. Yes, it's relative to the volume of searches, but for most small businesses, it's not.
That's perfect.
That's
I think
really
that gives so what would you recommend? So we use all the different social medias, right? And like Pinterest for us is a big one just because of the industry we're in, right? So like we're getting 40,000 impressions a month quite easily just on pictures, right? We're not even advertising really on it yet. So what alternatives would you recommend for people to look at besides just Google and Facebook?
So like I've got another client that does Pinterest, and they do organic, and they do like paid. I don't know anything about it. We just track, within our platforms, and they do all their tracking, but that works great for them. And if you want advice, I don't have the tactical advice on how to do it.
It all comes down to the data.
Yep, exactly. But I know like for some people that works. Even like TikTok, we were talking about, like it has its own ad platform. It's very similar to Facebook in the targeting and how it's built. It sucked when it came out about a year ago, and they've really improved it, which is why they were giving free money to people to spend on the platform and find out when it first launched. And it's gotten a lot better since then. So there's a paid, but then there's also, obviously the organic stuff, and there's a system to get in there. And it's so popular, and last year was like the #1 visited website in the world. And it's still in an infancy stage compared to Google and Facebook and Instagram and all these others. So I see that growing and being even bigger than where it is now. And I started to even use it where it's like, all right, like whether I like it or not, like I need to be using it, and I need to figure it out. And, there's information, resources of people that show you how to do it, but you don't have to be everywhere. That's something I'm going to say, is like, you don't have to be on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and this and that. Yes, it's good to learn and kind of be prepared and to move on to others, but you don't have to be on all these different places. Like some people like Twitter, and it's doing really well organically and with paid for them. but it's a very small percentage compared to like Facebook and Google kind of a thing.
I think
so
it's probably niche specific, right? Based on what.
somewhat, yeah, somewhat it is, you know, and even like LinkedIn's one, but that's definitely going to be more professional services, things like that. Some people do great on it, and others it's not. Same thing YouTube. Certain things are going to do really good on YouTube, others are not. You don't really see e-com for the most part, e-com type stuff on YouTube because it doesn't work as well. You know, you see a few here and there like, oh, buy this cool fancy drone, and this, like, that's the one I see all the time is about this stupid drone. And it's a really good catchy one where I know it's a super cheap thing that they're making somewhere in China, but they make it sound super cool. Their marketing's good, so it works for them because, again, it's a numbers game. But a lot of people, certain things, it won't work for you.
That's fair.
So those are some things that I could look at. And like TikTok, you would think, well, it's just young kids. Like, it's not. When I don't have the number and a lot of the updated data in front of me, but it's definitely not that, like, I know my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, like, they're on it all the time. Yes, my kids are on it all the time, but also family members are on it. And people are selling, like, AC services and like, they're doing that in their local area with ads as well. A lot of it, though, no matter what platform you're looking at, it's going to come back to your creative and your offer, though. No matter how great you're targeting, how cool your website looks, or anything like that, the creative is like the biggest piece because it's capturing the attention, it's connecting with people, so it's kind of infotainment, you know, in a way where everybody loves entertainment. So if you can create, you don't have to be great at it at first. Everybody sucks, but capturing the attention, connecting with people, and then having an offer to a solution to a problem that they have, and then a call to action. Like, that's your biggest piece, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, like Pinterest. It's about creative stuff that's capturing people, like the creative and the offer. If your creative and your offer sucks, doesn't matter what kind of targeting you do, how much money you spend. So that's a very important piece for people to understand. But don't think like you need to hire this big creative agency to do these big commercials and ads. Like, a lot of people, like, we've got phones, like some of the best cameras and stuff out there, and some simple type editing stuff, or you can find some people to do some simple editing. Yes, you can pay tens of thousands of dollars to do these crazy things, but you don't have to do that to compete with those that are doing some of those things too.
But if people want to do that, we're going to give you your free shout out now. So let's just kind of cover what you're going to do for everybody and where they can find you, because we're getting close to the end of our episode. So I want to give you some free marketing and see if you can let us know what you people can come to you and where they can find you and what you offer for them.
Oh, well, perfect. I appreciate it. So probably the best place to, hmficmarketing.com if people want to go on there. Or they can find me on socials. It's just HMFIC on TikTok, or I think Instagram, it's HMFIC_Matt. I don't know. I think somebody took it. I don't know who it is.
All good. We'll share all the links. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can send those to you guys, but reaching out to me is the best. And as far as like some of the changes, like I said, what I've done always has just been like the super high level, high tier, like agency stuff, which I still do, but I'm very selective. I take less people on now with that. And I'm doing even more like partnerships where people like, hey, like I do this, they do, like, we kind of create a partnership in a way, kind of marrying our skills in that instance. And then so there's that, which is, again, the high ticket. And then I do more like one-on-one coaching, mentoring, where it's more about the access. So it's kind of a done with you oversight. They shoot me Voxer messages any time of the day. Like, I'm there to get back pretty quick, right away. We do coaching calls together. So it's really like an oversight and direct access to me. And then I do, like, which is the entry level, which is like group coaching. So that's through, like, we do it through Facebook group. We do weekly coaching calls, Q&As, guest experts, trainings through there. And then you can still post questions and ask within the group, but it's not like the one-on-one access and personal coaching calls. So those are kind of the three areas, and I'm really focused on, like, the coaching, mentoring, and the group coaching, because I can help more people that way. They're just learning, they're doing the implementation, and it's like the anti-agency. You get the oversight and access and kind of guidance of an agency without paying the high agency prices.
Perfect.
Well, that was awesome, Matt. We really appreciate all the info. Everybody listening is going to get a lot of value just in like the basics, and then they're going to probably come find you, because I know we'll probably be in touch again just to go over some other things for sure.
Yeah, no, perfect. Any questions, and if anybody reaches out to you guys, you know how to send them my way, or any questions, anything like that, always, I'm more about the value. Like, even when I get on calls, I'm probably the worst. I'm pretty good at sales, but I'm the worst person because I don't like sell. It's more of the value, and it sells itself. And I think that's the best way to sell. It's like, here's the value. Like, if you want to work with me, by the end, people are like, how can I hire you? Like, oh, I guess I did something right, because I'm not pitching. Like, I'm not trying to get people on a call. Like I do, if anybody is interested, like I do 30-minute, I call them ad audit, like deep dives.
Yep.
Where we'll literally jump on, and if at the end you don't want to do anything, like that's fine. Like, cool, totally perfect. Go implement it. Like, couple things they take away. If they're like, hey, can I continue coaching, or can you do this for me? It's available, but I'm not like 10 minutes of this and 20 minutes of trying hard selling on something. Like, that's not what I'm about.
That's awesome. Great. So, like, again, thanks guys for listening. Thanks for watching. You can find us at businesslifeofhusbandandwife.ca. on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok on the same. And thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
That was awesome. Thanks, Matt.
As always, thanks for listening. Make sure to follow, share, and subscribe online. Check us out on all social medias at Business Life of Husband and Wife.